The night sky was silent, but the harvester was not. Its giant blades turned slowly, glowing red under the alien sun. In front of those deadly blades stood a young alien girl. Her family had left her to be erased like useless dust. The crowd passed by, cold and blind, as if her life meant nothing. But one pair of eyes did not look away. A human. He froze, his heart pounding. Why was no one saving her? Why were they all watching her walk toward death? The harvester roared louder. The blades spun faster. And in that single breath before the end, the human stepped forward. The harvester moved slowly across the wide alien fields. Its blades shined under the weak light of the twin suns, cutting everything in its path. The ground trembled with each turn of its giant wheels, and the air filled with the sharp hum of its endless work. To the people who lived there, it was only a machine. But to her, it was something else. It was the end. The young alien girl stood in front of those spinning blades. Her feet were bare against the rough soil. The crowd around her did not speak, did not whisper, did not even glance at her. They simply kept walking, as if she was not there, as if her life had no weight at all. Even her own family had turned their backs, leaving her in the path of the harvester. She lowered her head. She knew what it meant to be left there. No one would stop the machine. No one would reach out a hand. She was meant to be forgotten before the sun set. The harvester roared closer, its shadow growing long, stretching across her small frame. But far from the crowd, one man had stopped walking. He was not from this world. His clothes were different, his eyes sharper, filled with questions the others never asked. He was human. At first, he thought he was mistaken. Perhaps the girl was only resting near the machine. Perhaps someone would come to take her hand away. But as seconds passed, he saw the truth. No one cared. No one looked. The harvester kept moving, its blades cutting the field clean, and she stood frozen, waiting for what was to come. The human's chest tightened. Why would they leave her there? What had she done? He looked at the faces of the aliens walking by. Cold, empty, distant. They acted as if the girl had already vanished from their world. The human clenched his fists. He was told many things about this land, about its people, their ways, their silence. But no one had warned him of this. The harvester was closer now. Its sound grew louder, echoing like thunder across the field. The girl raised her head for the first time. Her eyes were wide, but not with fear. They were filled with something else, something like quiet acceptance. She knew no one would help her. She knew this was her fate. The human could no longer stand still. His feet moved before his mind had decided. He stepped off the safe path, into the dust, into the trembling earth. The crowd noticed then, their eyes following him as he walked toward the girl. Murmurs began, soft and surprised. What was this human doing? Why would he interfere? It was not his world, not his rule, not his place. But he did not stop. His heart raced as the blades spun closer. The air grew hot around the machine, filled with the smell of cut soil and burning metal. The human pushed forward, his boots sinking into the dry ground, his eyes never leaving the small figure standing alone. The girl saw him now. For a moment, her expression shifted. Confusion flickered across her face. Why would a stranger come for her? Why would someone who was not even from her kind step into danger for her? The harvester was almost upon her. Its shadow swallowed her whole. The blades spinning so close that the wind from them lifted her hair into the air. The crowd gasped, waiting for the moment to pass, waiting for the dust to settle. But then, in that last breath before the end, the human reached her. His hands stretched forward, his voice sharp but steady. "Come with me." The girl blinked. No one had spoken to her with such certainty before. Her body trembled, not from the harvester's roar, but from the sudden spark of hope she did not expect to feel. The human grabbed her arm gently, pulling her away from the line of the blades. The machine thundered past, its great wheels shaking the earth, its metal teeth tearing through the empty air where she had been standing only moments before. Dust flew up around them, coating his clothes, filling her lungs, making the world blur. When the dust cleared, the crowd saw them both standing together, one human and one small alien girl still alive. The human's chest rose and fell, his breath heavy, but his eyes were calm now. He looked at her, not with fear, not with anger, but with something she had never seen before in anyone's gaze: care. The girl lowered her head again, but this time it was not in defeat. It was in disbelief. She had been left alone her whole life, yet in the moment when even her own family turned away, a stranger from another world had stepped forward. The crowd whispered among themselves. Some shook their heads, some frowned, others simply stared. But none dared to step closer. The human knew this was only the beginning. By choosing to save her, he had crossed an invisible line. Whatever secret surrounded this girl, it was powerful enough to make her own people turn away. And now, by standing at her side, he had chosen her fate as his own. The harvester rolled away into the distance, its job unfinished, its blades still turning under the suns. But for the girl, everything had changed. And for the human, everything was about to begin. The girl's small hand still rested in his, as if she did not know whether to let go or hold on. The human did not loosen his grip, not until he was sure the harvester had passed far enough into the distance. The machine's sound faded into the wide fields, but its echo still lived in the silence of the crowd. The people around them stood watching. Their eyes carried no warmth, no sign of relief. If anything, they seemed displeased. A ripple of whispers passed from one to another, words carried like wind through the dust. The human could not understand their language fully, but he did not need to. The look on their faces was enough. They had wanted her gone. The girl lowered her head. She did not speak, but her shoulders trembled as if she carried a weight too heavy for someone so young. The human bent down slightly so his voice would not carry far. "You are safe now," he said softly, though even as he spoke, he wondered if it was true. She looked up at him with wide, searching eyes. There was something in her gaze, a question she could not bring to words. Why did he care? Why had he chosen to stand against the silence of her people? She opened her mouth, but before she could answer, the crowd began to shift. Her family stepped forward. Their expressions were tight, not in shock, not in thankfulness, but in something closer to unease. The human felt their stares settle on him like a cold weight. He stood taller, keeping the girl behind him. Though he did not know why he felt the need to shield her, the family spoke in low tones. Their voices sharp, but the human caught only fragments. He did not answer them. He only looked into their eyes, waiting, steady. After a long moment, they turned away. One by one, they left, their heads bowed, their steps heavy. Not a single word was offered to the girl. The field grew quiet again, save for the faint hum of the harvester far in the distance. The human released a slow breath. He looked down at her. She had not moved. Her small hands clutched the edge of his sleeve, her gaze fixed on the ground. "Why?" he asked gently. "Why would they leave you there?" Her lips parted, but no sound came at first. Finally, in a voice thin as a whisper, she said, "Because I am not like them." The human felt the words settle deep inside him. Not like them. He studied her more closely now. At first glance, she seemed like any other child of her kind. But as the fading light touched her skin, faint lines glowed, patterns he had not noticed before. They traced across her arms like hidden markings, shining just for a moment before fading again. The girl pulled her sleeve down quickly, as if ashamed to show him. She shook her head and stepped back, but he did not move away. His voice was calm, steady, and kind. "You don't have to hide." Her eyes lifted to meet his. They were bright, reflecting the twin suns above, filled with fear but also something deeper hope. Fragile yet alive. She whispered, "They fear what I am. That is why they left me there." Before the human could answer, a sound broke the stillness. The rustle of feet on dry soil. Shadows moved along the far edge of the field. Figures were gathering, not the simple workers who had watched before, but others taller, cloaked, their faces hidden beneath hoods. Their steps were silent, but their presence was heavy, commanding. The girl stiffened. She pulled at his sleeve again, her voice urgent though still soft. "We must go. They will not let me remain." The human looked at the approaching figures. Their pace was steady, their attention fixed only on the girl. His jaw tightened. He did not know who they were, but he could read the truth in the way the girl's hands shook. He gave a single nod. Without another word, he guided her away from the open field, away from the path of the harvester. The crowd did not follow. They only watched in silence as the human led her into the dust and shadows, their eyes reflecting unease, perhaps even fear. As the suns dipped lower in the sky, the fields stretched endless around them. The girl walked close to his side, her steps light but hurried. Every few moments, she glanced over her shoulder, as if expecting those cloaked figures to appear again. The human finally spoke, his voice low but firm. "I will not leave you." Her steps slowed for a moment. She turned to him, her expression unreadable. No one had ever spoken such words to her before. For the first time, her lips curved into the faintest shape of a smile. But even as that fragile spark of warmth grew, the sound of footsteps echoed again. Closer this time. The shadows were not far behind. The human knew then that saving her from the harvester had only been the first step. The real danger had only begun. The night settled slowly across the wide fields, and the hum of the harvester faded into the distance until it was only a memory. The human led the girl toward the edge of the settlement, where the soil met the first lines of rock. Here, the air was cooler, the silence heavier. As though the stars themselves were waiting to hear her secret, she walked quietly beside him, her small steps quick to match his longer stride. From time to time, she glanced behind them, her eyes searching the dark horizon. No one followed, yet her unease did not fade. The human noticed. He slowed his pace so that she could walk more easily, then asked in a steady voice, "Who were they? The ones watching you?" Her gaze lowered. For a long moment, she did not answer. Her hands clutched at her sleeve again, as if hiding the faint lines beneath her skin. Finally, she spoke, her words trembling. "They are keepers. They protect the order of our people. They make sure no one like me remains." The human's brow tightened. "Like you." She lifted her eyes to him then. In the soft light of the twin moons, the marks on her skin appeared again, glowing gently as though they were alive. They traced patterns across her arms, curling like streams of light. She whispered, "I was born with this. It is old. It is not what they want. They call it a flaw, but the old records say it is something else." The human studied the lines. They pulsed faintly, in rhythm with her heartbeat, a quiet glow that seemed more natural than strange. "It does not look like a flaw," he said calmly. She blinked, her breath catching, as if no one had ever said such words to her. "To them, it is a danger. It is a reminder of a time they want to forget." The human thought about the way her family had left her without a word, the way the crowd had watched in silence, the way the cloaked figures had moved with purpose. There was truth in her fear, but there was something else too, something unspoken. He kept his voice gentle. "And what do you believe it is?" Her lips parted, then closed again. At last, she whispered, "I believe it is a key." The wind stirred the dust around them. The human tilted his head, urging her to go on. She hugged her arms close and continued. "The old stories say our people once walked free, without chains, without keepers. They say the ones with marks like mine carried the gift of change. But the keepers call them myths. They erase every record. They silence anyone who remembers." Her voice grew quieter as she added, "That is why my family left me. If I live, their order breaks." The human stopped walking. The weight of her words hung heavy between them. A child abandoned not for weakness, but for being too important, too different. He looked at her with steady eyes. "So they feared you." She nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on the ground. The human knelt slightly so she could see his face clearly in the moonlight. "Listen to me. What they call a flaw may be the very thing their world needs. You must not believe the silence they gave you." Her eyes widened, the glow on her skin brightening as if responding to his words. For the first time, her voice carried a spark of strength. "You believe this?" He gave a small, firm nod. "I believe it, and I will not let them take you." The girl's breath shook, but she straightened her back a little, standing closer to him. Before either could say more, a sound stirred the stillness. Not the heavy rumble of the harvester this time, but a softer, deliberate rhythm, the sound of footsteps across stone. The human's gaze sharpened. Shadows moved along the rocks behind them, shapes that blended with the night. The cloaked figures had not given up. The girl grabbed his arm tightly. "They are following. They will not stop." The human glanced around. They were far from the crowd now, far from anyone who might intervene. Only the empty fields, the rocks, and the endless sky stretched around them. Yet even in the quiet, he could feel the weight of unseen eyes. He placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Then we keep moving. You are not alone anymore." She swallowed hard, but her steps matched his as they pressed onward. The moonlight guided their path, glinting off her hidden marks, making them glow faintly like threads of light across the darkness. As they walked deeper into the unknown, one truth grew clear. The harvester had not claimed her life, but the real test, the reason for her survival, was only just beginning. The night grew heavier as the human and the girl pressed further into the open land. The moons followed them high above, casting long shadows across the stones. The air was thin and cool, carrying the faint rustle of distant machines still working in the fields. Yet under that soft hum came another sound, quieter but sharper, the faint rhythm of steps that did not belong to them. The human paused for a moment, listening. The girl's hand tightened on his arm, her body tense as if she already knew what he would hear. She whispered softly, "They are close." The human looked around. The wide plain offered little shelter, only scattered rocks and a thin line of low hills in the distance. If the cloaked figures wished to catch them, there would be no easy place to hide. But his eyes scanned the land with patience. He spotted a narrow cut in the rocks ahead, a shallow passage that bent out of sight. He pointed. This way. They moved quickly, though the girl's short steps made it harder to keep a strong pace. She did not complain, but her breathing grew uneven as they climbed over the stones. Still, she stayed close, as if letting go of his side might cause the shadows to swallow her whole. When they reached the passage, the humans slowed. The walls of stone rose around them, and the sound of their own steps echoed softly. The girl pressed a hand to the rock, steadying herself. Her faint markings glowed again, just enough to light their path. The human glanced at them. "Your light," he whispered. "It may guide us, but it may also guide them." Her eyes widened, and she quickly pulled her sleeve over her arm. The glow dimmed, leaving them half in shadow. "I cannot stop it," she admitted. "It answers when I feel fear." The human gave a small nod. "Then we keep moving. Fear is not weakness, it only means you know what is at stake." Her gaze lingered on him, surprised by his calmness. Then she followed without a word. The passage curved, opening into a hollow space where the land dipped between the rocks. Here, the ground was soft with dust, the silence thick. For a brief moment, the girl looked up at the stars, her face calm. But the moment did not last. A flicker of movement caught the human's eye at the edge of the stones above, a shadow sliding against the moonlight. He pulled her closer to him, lowering his voice. "They are here." The girl's breath caught. She pressed herself against his side, her heart racing fast enough that even he could hear it. Above them, the shapes of cloaked figures appeared, silent, deliberate, moving along the ridges of stone. Their presence was steady, like hunters who did not rush, because they believed their target had nowhere to go. The human felt the weight of their watch but did not show fear. He turned toward the girl, his voice firm yet quiet. "Listen, they want you to feel trapped, but you are not. As long as you walk with me, you are not." Her eyes shimmered in the moonlight, wide and uncertain, but she nodded. They pressed on through the hollow, each step slower now, careful not to stir the dust too loudly. The girl's sleeve slipped once, and her markings glowed faintly again, painting thin lines of light across the stones. The human gently pulled her sleeve back down, shaking his head softly. She whispered, almost to herself, "I am the reason they follow. If you leave me, you will be safe." He stopped walking and faced her. His voice carried no hesitation. "I will not leave you." The words hung between them like a shield, stronger than the rocks or shadows around them. For a moment, she forgot the fear and simply stared at him. No one had ever said such words to her before, not even her own blood. Above them, the shadows moved again. The keepers were not close enough to strike, but they were always near enough to remind the girl that escape was not simple. Still, the human walked with steady steps, guiding her deeper through the land. At last, the narrow path opened into a wider valley. Strange plants grew here, their long stems glowing faintly under the moons, casting soft light over the dust. The girl gasped quietly at the sight. "This place, I have seen it only in stories." They said it no longer exists. The human looked around. The plants swayed gently, though no wind touched them, their glow painting shifting shapes across the valley floor. He realized then that this place was not on any map he had studied. It was hidden, forgotten yet alive. The girl stepped forward, her hand brushing the glow of one stem. Her markings responded instantly, flaring brighter in harmony with the plant. The entire valley seemed to breathe with light for a moment, and the shadows on the ridges above hesitated. The human's eyes narrowed. For the first time, he saw a trace of uncertainty in the keeper's movements. They lingered at the edge, unwilling to step closer. He turned back to the girl, whose face was filled with awe. "This is why they fear you," he said softly, "because what they call a flaw connects you to something greater." Her lips trembled, but not from fear now. "Then maybe my life is not meant to end. Maybe it is meant to begin here." The human placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and firm. "Yes, and I will stand beside you." The valley glowed brighter, the girl's markings shining like threads of light. High above, the cloaked figures remained still, watching, waiting. The chase was not over, but for the first time, the girl did not feel only fear. She felt purpose. And the human, walking at her side, knew the true journey had just begun.